Crime report here. A naked man has been caught breaking into a woman's house outside of Tampa, Florida. He's known as the birthday suit bandit.
Wow.
They finally caught him. This has been going on now for upwards of 3 months in Tampa, where a nude 63-year-old would simply go into a home and petty theft. But a woman was home this time and said, "My God, you're naked. What are you doing?"
Thank you.
They caught it on camera, and he was caught.
What's going on, bro?
I just came over to talk to you.
You're walking around the street naked.
I know.
That's a neighbor.
Yeah. So?
I love his playoff, though. I'm coming over here to talk to you. What do you mean, what am I doing?
So the interrogation here.
Yeah. God.
Am I the crazy one? You're naked.
Am I?
And
aren't we all?
Really? When you get down
to it,
we all naked.
There was a movie that I remember watching ages ago. It starred Charles Bronson. And he was, I can't remember if he was a cop or just a vigilante guy, but he would shoot the bad guys. And there was someone going around, usually his movies were set in San Fran or L.A. And the killer, because DNA evidence and collection was very different back then, the killer would murder his victims stark naked.
Oh, really?
So as not to leave any evidence behind, or whatever, footprints, what have you.
Oh, very interesting. Because I saw one of my wife's crime documentaries. Same thing. The two suspects, they were caught, would shave all their body hair and commit the crime naked, wearing only gloves. And so you couldn't get...
I mean, in today's world, you would almost think that increases the risk of leaving behind some of your cells, your DNA, sweat, whatever.
Good point. What about, could you take a toe print? Is that...
Well, they're not in the database.
There's nothing to match them. There's nothing to match them
Yeah.
against. Exactly. They should start toe printing criminals. Or
Jesus,
It's weird, man. You want me to do what? Get those shoes off. Criminal. This is weird, man.
these ideas just hit me. I can't
step on the ink pad.
I can't fight them off. I cannot fight off ideas when they come in. They're just approaching me all the time.
Leave a note. Call the Attorney General.
Exactly. Because I've got a new way to put criminals in our database, not just fingerprints, toe prints as well. I believe the bottom of your toes have prints that are just as unique as your fingerprints.
That does make sense from a human point of view. I wonder how close they are.
I don't know.
Does your big toe match
your thumb?
Your thumb.
Interesting. But I think you're right about now with DNA technology. If you're naked, yes, you're going to leave behind more perspiration.
More chance of your hair to fall out. More chances of your pubes.
These guys had shaved every pubie and their
bald head.
Bald head, too. When they were caught, I saw their mugshots, and they were completely bald, and the attorney said, they had shaved everything, and they didn't have any body hair at all, and then committed the crime naked. It wouldn't be a good look, but for them, they should wear gloves and socks, like athletic socks. That way, you don't leave.
You remove more traces.
David, you're talking about the movie that Chris Demm saw. Go ahead.
Yeah, that movie's called 10 to Midnight. And sure enough, the guy, he had been killing these college girls, and he was naked. And Bronson knew who he was, and he was kind of baiting him because he couldn't prove it. And at the end, he basically baited him into chasing this girl, and the cop showed up, and Bronson had him cornered. And Bronson told him, "You're sick, you're crazy." And the guy said, "Yeah, that's right, I'm crazy. I don't know what I was doing. And when I get out of jail, I'll be back." And Bronson said, "No, you won't," and shot him right between the eyes.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, you kind of, he bend the law.
He bend it. God, Charles Bronson. They don't make them like that anymore.
No,
Charles F. Bronson. Thank
10
you,
to
David.
midnight. Thank you.
I like that. See, I thought Death Wish when you were describing
No,
it.
Death Wish was when he was going after someone had raped and murdered his wife and put his daughter in a coma.
Is that the one President Trump was trying to think
Yes.
of? President Trump, this is
one of his favorites.
Okay, he likes Charles Bronson during his first term. He may have been in a campaign mode.
I think it might have been campaign mode.
He was talking to the audience about Charles Bronson and Death Wish.
Somebody attacks me. Oh, they're going to be shocked. Can you imagine Somebody says, oh, there's Trump, he's easy pickings. What'd you say?
He's doing finger guns, by the way.
What was that?
What'd you say?
I'm easy pickings?
Oh, really?
Says who?
Right? Oh, boy. What was the famous movie, remember?
Great Escape.
No, remember?
Titanic.
Where he went around and he sort of, after his wife was hurt so badly and killed.
Dirty Dozen?
No.
Mr.
What?
Majestic.
No.
Charles Bronson, right?
Yeah.
The late, great Charles Bronson. Name of the movie? Come on.
Magnificent Seven.
No.
Death Wish.
Yeah.
Ah,
Remember
Death Wish.
You got it.
Oh, we're going to cut you up, sir. We're going to cut you up. Oh. Bing.
Okay.
That was a bullet coming out of Trump's finger gun.
Bink.
You're dead. You're dead, buddy. You won't get a day in court, my friend.
Bink.
Bink.
Today you can't make that movie because it's not politically correct. Right? It's not politically correct. But could you imagine with Trump, somebody says, oh, all these big monsters aren't around. He's easy pickings. And then,
He just wiped out a whole gang.
That was his automated weapon.
Yeah.
Boom.
Now, we should also point out that as Trump was making that speech, they were reshooting Death Wish starring Bruce Willis.
Yeah, they remade. They did do that. You know who knows about that? Media guy Craig. He's on the phone. He knows all inside movie knowledge, and he knows more about 10 to midnight as well. Media guy Craig, go ahead.
Well, it was everything that the other gentleman described is exactly right. But the big part of the plot was that he goes after a house full of nurse students, and that was actually based on the Richard Speck real-life case, except Speck didn't get naked when he did it.
Oh,
okay.
Specific targets.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I like that little wrinkle that they threw in there.
And I can't remember, because this being media guy Craig might know if it was the late 1970s or early 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
They probably showed some of the ladies showering. I can't remember if they showed the dude's peen.
Oh,
they probably showed his. I want to say they showed his backside because they had to show he was naked.
Always women.
But you rarely saw male genitalia.
You saw boobs a lot.
Yeah, a lot of TNA.
What an era. Now it's way
It's
less.
on your phone.
Yeah. I guess you don't need it now. You can get it elsewhere. Do you know, media guy Craig, any nudity in this film?
There was. It was 1983, and yes, shower scenes for the girls and some backside running of him naked when he escaped. But I believe there is one long shot from the front, and it's shadowed, so you can't really see much, but they did show him running from the front.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bing.
Pish.
Thank you, media guy.
What'd you say?
Thank you, media
Saying it to me.
You're all dead.
That's my favorite speech that Donald Trump has ever
Yeah.
given. That is my favorite speech he has ever given in either term in office. There's another crime to discuss today. Well, I guess it's not really a crime other than littering. Someone has dumped an urn full of remains into the Gulf of America, and it has washed.
What'd you say?
It has washed up on the shores. So they were trying to figure out where the urn came from.
Not all receptacles look
Right.
like they're carrying ashes, correct?
Correct. This was like a box. So they thought it was a term I recently used, square grouper. Square grouper refers to cocaine baled, and then it washes up on the shores of, in this case, Galveston. We talked about this yesterday. What was the other one? A New York whitefish?
Long Island whitefish.
Yeah.
Way more gross.
Man, that's as gross as it gets. We learned about that yesterday. I'm shielded from these things. Square grouper is marijuana or cocaine baled up that rolls up onto a beach. A Long Island whitefish is a used condom floating in the East River.
Down the East River.
In New York. Now it was basically a square box, and authorities had to open it at their own caution because it rolled up onto the
They bomb
shore.
squad it?
They bomb squatted it at first, but when they opened it, they realized, oh, this is ashes.
These are
Someone
remains.
has had their remains dropped into the Gulf of Mexico, and Gulf Shores police have handled this. So everybody around was thinking, what in the world? the local news caught up to a guy on the beach.
That would freak me out.
He says
He speaks for Chris Kelly.
it would.
That freaked me out.
That would freak me out.
I've
All
heard
right.
you say that, Kelly. Those exact
Oh,
words.
yeah.
Would freak me out, of course.
Is a dead body washed up? Well, it's not a dead
It's
body.
not a dead body.
Per se.
It's just ashes. Meanwhile, a fisherman.
It could be off a boat that got capsized. It could be somebody's last wish to be thrown out there. I mean, there's numerous things it could be, but what it is, I don't know.
This is the best they could do. Gulf Shores, Alabama.
That sounds like they just put a mic in his face and just let him go.
Yeah.
And no one said stop or another question. He didn't know what to say, so he just kept rambling. I don't know. There's someone on the beach. Boom.
It almost seems like if they let him talk for 30 more seconds, he'd have talked about a body he threw into the water.
Cut those microphones.
It could be off a boat that got capsized. It could be somebody's last wish to be thrown out there. I mean, there's numerous things it could be, but what it is, I don't know.
Why would I know? Sound like I've been out here.
I've thrown a few over.
It turned out to be exactly that. Somebody's last wish was to be thrown into the.
But nobody capsized, thankfully.
No, nobody capsized. Inside the urn, after investigation, they found evidence that it came from a crematory in Ohio.
Oh.
So the police were able to get into contact with the crematory in Ohio, and it turns out that the woman who had died wanted to be scattered in water. But her cousin, who says, yeah, I go down to Gulf Shores sometimes.
Lake Erie's right there.
Yeah. He was going,
Isn't it?
It is, but he was going to Florida. He's like, I'll scatter her out there. And he didn't scatter the ashes.
He just tossed the whole receptacle.
I wonder if he's in trouble with the family. It's like, she was
Yes.
supposed
to scatter.
She wanted to be scattered.
Let me tell you, he is, because my father was cremated.
Mhm.
We still have his ashes because my mother wants to be cremated and she wants us to toss them together into the ocean.
Right.
However, she has made it very clear, take us out of the urn.
I didn't think that had to be.
I didn't think so either, but
spelled
she's very
out.
worried about, she's
Right.
like, remember, take us out of the urn. And we're like, we will. But in this case, I guarantee you,
We've all seen ashes scattered.
Yes.
That's how it's done. This guy, I mean, it was a watertight box with the ashes inside. Man on beach.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to find out what's going on and how she ended up being in the water in the first place. Or maybe she was on a ship and they lost her somehow accidentally. Or maybe she got washed overboard. There's no telling.
There is.
Boy, the imagination's running wild in Gulf Shores. Maybe she died in the box and then burned to death in the box. And then the box washed up on shore. Could happen.
Some characters down there.
big time.
On the,
Yes, indeed, on the old Gulf.
on the beaches. Police officer explains it.
The deceased had requested that her final resting place be, the waters, whether it be the ocean or the Gulf. And it just so happened that a nephew of the family comes down to Gulf Shores frequently and took the family members down here to put the urn into the Gulf.
A little surprising that they just dumped the whole
I
thing.
wonder how far out. I mean, did they dump it off a fishing pier? Because then it would just roll right up, you would think, with the tide.
Another great question, because it is not addressed. Now,
If you took it a mile out to sea, it would take forever, wouldn't it?
now, guess how long it took. Guess when they did that. Okay.
When she was burned,
Yeah, yes.
cremated?
So when did they? But between the time that they dumped it into the Gulf until it was found by these colorful gentlemen on the beach, how long? How much time had elapsed?
That's a great question.
For some reason, 3 months just jumps in my head.
All right.
6 months.
12 hours.
Wow.
Or to just throw it over a breaker? Water's too cold. I'm up to my knees. I'm just gonna.
So he got found out fast.
I'm gonna toss Meemaw over this next wave.
Whole story,
Bruh.
the whole thing wrapped up in 3 days. Even finding the crematory
God.
and knowing who it was.
When's the last time you cremated a woman named Adams? Day before yesterday.
This is the worst job of scattering ashes
Come
I think
on.
I've ever heard.
Come on, nephew.
They did it in the evening at like 7:30 at night, and the next morning these two found it rolled up on the. Man, that's something right there. You got to know. You got to wonder.
And I'm curious. I don't mind telling you.
Find out.
I mean, everything took about less than a week, and they had the whole mystery solved. You know, they figured out where she was from. Well, now I would say
I'm sure that the case was probably still sealed,
it was
watertight.
Yeah, I saw the case. It was like, well, there's nothing got into
there's
it.
usually the ashes are typically in a plastic bag
inside the urn, inside
the
a box,
receptacle,
which is exactly what was the case here. Now, if I were her husband or whoever, I would say, let's do this right. Okay, let's take her to Lake Erie.
She deserves better.
She deserves better, and let's scatter her instead.
These weren't her wishes.
Exactly. You've got to know that. As you all said, why would anybody ever even have to say, make sure you take this out of the urn? But
yeah, I mean, scattering the ashes, you hear it almost all your life.
I know, of course. That's what you do, is scatter the ashes.
Have you and your wife made the decision about your ashes commingled?
We have never discussed.
The final resting place?
We need to discuss. I mean, God forbid it happen anytime soon, but I do want to discuss what we do. We're going to want to mix our ashes, I'm sure. My wife's going to want our dog's ashes mixed with us. We know that.
You won't get to heaven that way.
What? What's that? You don't get to heaven if you mix the dog's ashes? That's news to me. I'll fight her on it then. I'll say, no.
She's in the Bible.
But remember, her mantra is, the dog goes where we go.
She goes.
So that's going to happen.